My friends, there is a certain kind of mindset that, if we're unfortunate enough to fall into it, and if we sink deeper and deeper into it, it can be very exhausting. It's the kind of thinking that makes us dissatisfied, unhappy, and unsuccessful. A mindset that affects so many aspects of our lives. And honestly, just recently, just a few days ago, I received several emails related to this exact mindset. Those emails were filled with anger, with frustration, with endless misery. The people who sent them didn't know how to get out of it. Now, I'll be honest with you, this wasn't really a topic I wanted to make. It wasn't on my list of things to cover. But of course, there are times when I see so many people dealing with the same issue, and I feel like I should use this program, use a little bit of whatever influence I have to put something positive out there. Something that helps people realize a bit of balance and maybe makes life a little better. Even just a little bit better. That alone would bring me joy. So, what is this mindset I'm talking about? I want to share it with you through a story because it connects perfectly with this old fable. If you've ever read or heard Aesop's fables, you're probably already familiar with this one. But let me retell it briefly because I think it's such a relatable story. It's the story of the fox and the grapes. I'm sure you've heard it before, but do you actually understand what the fox and the sour grapes really means? If you do, then just bear with me for a bit. And if you don't, then I'll tell it again, and afterward I'll connect it to the toxic mindset I mentioned earlier. So here's the story. One fine day, this is just from memory because I don't like reading word for word. That's stiff and boring. I'll tell it in my own way. On a beautiful day, the fox was walking along and came across a juicy bunch of grapes. His mouth watered instantly. Wow, delicious! I've got to eat this, he thought. So he jumped with all his strength, trying to reach the grapes. He jumped as high as he could, again and again, but he just couldn't reach them. Poor guy, really tried his best, but nope, too high. Then he spotted another cluster nearby a little closer. That one's not as high. If I try hard enough, I might be able to grab it, he thought. So he tried again. Jumped. Failed. Tried again. Failed. The grapes looked so good, but they were just out of reach. He jumped and jumped until he was exhausted, out of breath, and finally, he gave up. But here's the thing, you know how it is. When you see something that tempting and you can't get it, it hurts. The fox was frustrated, he was upset, and then a thought popped into his mind. Wait a second, those grapes aren't that good anyway. Look at them, green, unripe. They'd probably be sour, not worth it. Why should I even bother? I don't even want them. That's what he told himself. But deep inside, as he walked away, he was still bitter, still upset. Yet he kept repeating to himself, I don't even want those sour grapes. Now let's come back to the mindset I mentioned at the beginning. You see, fables like this are powerful because they help us reflect on our own lives. That's their greatest value. We learn something about ourselves from these little stories. So here's the toxic mindset I was talking about. It's exactly like the fox is thinking. We want something. We try hard to get it, but we fail. And instead of finding another way, or trying again, or figuring out a smarter approach, we choose the easy way out. We tell ourselves, I don't even want it. And worse, we start looking at that goal in a negative way. Sometimes even with resentment or hatred toward the very thing we once desired. But think back to the fox. Did he really find peace by saying those grapes are sour anyway? Did he truly feel that way deep down? Or was he just fooling himself? And what happens later? When he comes across more grapes in the future, does he even have the motivation to try again? Or does he just give up thinking, oh, they're all sour anyway? That's helplessness. And what comes after that? Hunger. Because now he has no drive to keep reaching for more grapes. That one silly moment, giving up and convincing himself he didn't care, ends up shaping his whole mindset. From then on, he resents the very achievements he once longed for. Let me take this a little deeper. What happens if that fox walks further down the road and sees another fox enjoying a bunch of grapes? What do you think goes through his mind? He might say, "Ha, you're just eating sour grapes." Look at them, so green. Not tasty at all. Or maybe you only got those grapes because you were lucky. They must have fallen down, otherwise there's no way you could have picked them from the vine. Or maybe someone must have given those grapes to you. You couldn't possibly have gotten them on your own. And that, my friends, is the sad kind of thinking the fox had. Instead of finding a way, maybe jumping higher, or finding a rock to stand on to reach the grapes, the fox chose not to. Why? Because that would have been hard. That would have taken effort, sweat, creativity, and patience. And since it was too hard, he gave up. Better to hate the grapes and hate the ones who actually managed to eat them, right? That's what's sad. That's what's really sad. And unfortunately, so many of us copy that same example. A lot of people end up hating what? They hate money. Why? Because money is evil. But let me ask you honestly, my friends, do you need money? Do you want more money? Do you want 3 times the amount of money you're making right now? Do you really want to be wealthy? You've got to be honest about that, because you'll never get what you truly want if you deeply hate it, if you carry resentment toward it, like the fox did with the grapes. Sometimes I just wish we could live life being honest with ourselves. You can lie to the people around you. That's your choice. But at the very least, you owe honesty to yourself. In those quiet moments when you're calm and clear, ask yourself, do I like money? If the answer is yes, then you should learn how to earn money. Now, some people hear the words making money or learning to get rich, and they act like it's a terrible sin. But come on. If you like wealth, then learning how to build wealth is a completely valid thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's simply because you need money. And in my own life, I always say this: never let the amount of money you have be less than what you need. That doesn't mean chasing money recklessly like a moth to a flame, saying yes to everything, doing anything just for the cash. I don't support that at all. But I also don't support the opposite, where you clearly need money but you live as though you don't, and then you suffer daily from lack. So why not learn how to build wealth right now? There are hundreds, thousands of ways to do it. Not all of them are bad. Being a good employee is also a way of building wealth. Learning how to improve your skills, your mindset, your work ethic, that's building wealth. Running a clean, honest business, that's building wealth too. There are so many ways. Why label all of that as dirty or sinful? People keep saying money is the root of all evil. But let me ask you, is it really money that's evil? Or is it the lack of money that causes even more evil? Maybe both, depending on how you look at it. But think carefully. Which one carries the greater potential for harm? Don't dismiss the sour grapes. Find a way to jump higher. That ability to stretch yourself to push beyond your limits, that's a beautiful virtue. There's no shame in that, none at all. I often tell my friends, if eating fast food every day makes you happy, then congratulations, I'm happy for you. Seriously, there's nothing wrong with that. Why should you desire more if you're already genuinely content with what you have, right? But remember this, eating fast food is perfectly fine if you're truly happy with it. The problem is when you eat fast food but deep down you're craving steak, lobster, caviar, sushi, sashimi, French food, Chinese food, whatever it might be. If that's the case, then stop pretending. Work harder, make more money, and go eat the things you actually crave. Don't fool yourself. And don't look at the people eating those things with envy. Because guess what? They're like the fox who trained and practiced over and over until he could jump a few inches higher to grab the grapes. Or maybe they found another route, another method, a harder path to get what they wanted. That takes effort, thought, humility. Too often we live trapped by our own pride. We think we're better than we really are. But that's a sad way to live because giving into pride is easy. Anyone can do that. When you try hard at something and fail, hating that thing afterward is the easiest reaction in the world. Take love, for example. You pursue a girl. At first you're saying, I love you so much, I can't live without you. You confess once, she rejects you. Twice she rejects you. A third time, still a no. And suddenly you turn around and say, ugh, she's worthless anyway. But wait, the girl never changed. She was consistent from start to finish. The only person with two different positions was you. That's the problem. That's where the fault lies. What happens then? If the girl suddenly says yes, do you go back and say, "Oh, sorry, you're not worthless anymore"? That's ridiculous, right? And yet, that's exactly how many people behave. It's a dangerous, destructive mindset. And honestly, it's so strange to me that people criticize and hate the very things they truly desire. Let me give you another example. I have a friend who's obsessed with fame and the arts, but every time he sees someone famous, he acts like, "I don't even care about fame." Of course, I asked his permission before sharing this story, because real friends can joke around and call each other out, but we still respect each other. I'd never share this without his blessing, and I won't mention his name, of course. But back to the story. He says he doesn't care about fame, but whenever he performs at some small event, he posts photos on Facebook and shares them for a whole week. Clearly, he does want recognition. He wants to be noticed. He wants people to encourage him, to cheer him on. The only difference is his stage is smaller. So why not just be honest about that? Why not actually study self-marketing, personal branding, social media strategy, how to become an influencer or a KOL on TikTok, Facebook, or YouTube? Because that's what he really wants. And the truth is, fame is extremely hard. It doesn't just fall into your lap. People don't just magically know who you are. You have to learn, you have to practice, you have to put yourself out there. Just like the fox, you've got to jump higher if you want the grapes. Now, if you truly don't want it, that's fine. Don't chase it. For example, if all you want is to sing and you don't care about being famous, that's beautiful. I respect that so much. I've met singers like that. They don't want the spotlight. They just want to sing in a small jazz bar night after night. And when the crowd grows too big, 30, 40 people, they start to panic because they don't like the pressure. And you know what? That's perfectly okay. Not everyone is made for fame. There are people like that out there. And I really respect them. I honestly admire them because they know exactly what they want. So listen carefully to this episode. I'm not here to criticize anyone who chooses what might look like a lower standard. To be real with you, there's no such thing as a lower standard here. It's kind of funny, though. I'll say one thing, then turn around and kind of contradict myself with the next. But if you keep listening, you'll get what I mean. We've got to focus on what we actually want. If what you want is peace, then choose a peaceful life. But if what you want is something bigger, something wider, something more expansive, then you've got to go for it. You've got to put in the effort to conquer it. That's just how life is. Everyone's got their own life, their own choices. But here's the thing. Don't hate the very thing you desire. That's something I really want you to hear. Don't hate the thing you long for. Don't fail and then turn bitter at life. If you fail, you've got to try again. Like a fox jumping higher and higher, aiming for that fruit. That's the beauty of life. Because instead of pumping yourself up with some quick fix, yeah, it feels good for a moment, sure. And honestly, once you step out into the real world, it's so easy to find people just like you. You'll build little tribes of your own, sharing frustrations, sharing that sense of being wronged by life. But then what? Are you really any happier when the electric bill shows up in the mail? Do you honestly feel more joy in the everyday fullness of your life? We've got to be honest with ourselves. And of course, everyone has their own choices, their own way of living. And I believe this. If someone is truly happy, even if they look at the grapes and say, they're sour, I'm still glad for them as long as they're genuinely happy. But if deep down there's bitterness, there's heaviness, then why keep lying to yourself? Right? That's the real choice when it comes to happiness. Now, here's the truth. When I wrote this talk, I had a bunch of bullet points. But after going back and forth, speaking with so much passion, this is as far as I've gotten. And honestly, I don't want this episode to drag on too long. So let's wrap it up here. Of course, everything I've shared today, it's just my personal perspective. It's not the ultimate truth, and even so-called truth can be wrong sometimes, depending on the situation. That's why usually, after I record something like this, when I go back and listen to the raw version, I almost always find myself debating with myself. And look, if you spot some kind of hole or flaw in what I said, chances are I've already noticed it before hitting publish. That's why I think it's important to say this. Keep my words in the exact context I'm giving them to you. Because if you take them out of context, they can sound completely wrong. That's also why I like telling stories. Because with stories, there's always context. It makes things easier to understand. A lot of things in life are relative, you know? So yeah, I know my perspective might not hold up in every situation, but at least in this context, I believe it strongly. And I'm living exactly the way I've described here. It's subjective, sure, but I've learned my lessons through that subjectivity, and I hope it gives you something useful, even just for reference. You don't have to follow it. You can just listen for fun, listen to relax, listen to think about it, and most importantly, be joyful, be happy, my friends. All right, that's it for today. We'll meet again in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.